La, 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 la. We are back today with Welcome back guys, it's Lloyd from Run4Adventure and we are back with another video today. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you can keep up to date with future content, and if you've already subscribed to the channel then thank you very much for supporting our little YouTube channel, it really is appreciated. We are back today with the second episode in a series of videos we're making at Run4Adventure where we go through our tips and advice for running and training for ultramarathons. If you haven't seen the first episode in the series where we covered Run4Adventure's tips and advice for running your first ultra or 50k, please go and check it out. So in this video we are upping the distance to 100k, and I personally think this is a pretty tough distance to run and it is a massive step up from 50k. Anyway, the weather is beautiful down here in Cornwall today, so let's get outside and let's get stuck into this video. Another epic day out on the Towns of Hale. Oh, so lucky to have this place to run on in lockdown. But anyway, tip number one is, a few weeks ago we uploaded a video which was running your first ultra or 50k. The video had lots of tips and advice, so if you haven't seen it, I'd go along, check out that video, take in all them tips and all that advice, because obviously they will really help you running your first 100k as well. So first tip, watch that video, take all that information in. I'd like to think that most people thinking about taking on their first 100k have a fair bit of running experience, and you've maybe run several marathons and several ultras beforehand. I know it's really common these days for a lot of runners to up the distance really quickly, but to be fair, I'm not really a lover of this. I think it's a really easy way to run yourself into problems really quickly. I personally feel the best option is to gradually work your way through the distances up to 100k. It's the sensible way to do it, and it's a lot more likely to give you longevity in the sport. And when I say these things, I'm only speaking from experience. When I first ran my first ultra, I didn't really have anyone to speak to or anyone to get advice from, so I decided to jump in the deep end and go for 100 miles. Great idea, Lloyd. To be fair, I had a big background of endurance running. I've been running for years, running lots of marathons. I'd also taken part in triathlon events all the way up to Ironman. I'd done a fair bit of endurance cycling and swimming. So I had a good background of endurance sport, but I'd never taken on anything like 100 miles of running. We got through the race, but unfortunately by the end of it, I had ligament and tendon damage because my body just wasn't prepared to handle that distance all in one go. And unfortunately I ended up in hospital having an x-ray. But the worst thing was, after that 100 miler, I couldn't run for 2 to 3 months, which was a nightmare. So building up your distance gradually is definitely the best way to do it. So tip number 2 is running with a head torch or nighttime running. Obviously a lot of this depends on the time of year your race is, the distance of your race, how quickly you're going to run your race, and what time your race starts. But unless you're a super speedy elite, you're probably going to be spending some time running with a head torch on your head. It's really important to get some practice in before race day. And I don't just mean a couple of short runs with a head torch on, check it out, yeah, great. It's good to spend lots of hours with that head torch on your head. But before you do that, the most important thing is to get yourself a quality head torch. When you are taking on your first 100k, you're going to have lots of issues and things to deal with and think about. So if you purchase yourself a quality head torch that's been designed to work in that environment, it's one less hassle you have to think about. So I would always recommend going for a running specific brand, you know, say a Petzl, LED Lenser, Silver, a brand that's designed their head torch to actually be running and to work in them environments. Yep, head torches like that are definitely going to cost you a bit more money, and you could pop on Amazon or eBay and get yourself 1,000 lumens head torch that's got 1,000,000 hours of battery life. But to be fair, they're a load of rubbish. You know, they don't give you that power. It's all false. Battery life is super short. You'll burn through them batteries. They're not particularly well balanced. They tend to be pretty heavy and pretty clumsy, and they don't last 5 minutes. You're best off investing in a quality head torch, because you know as well as I do, once you've ticked off that 100k finish, you're going to be eyeing up a 100 miler. So you've got a head torch for 100 miles. Perfect. Invest in quality kit. So what to look out for when you're purchasing your head torch? The first thing to look out for is obviously the power, the lumens, the output. I would recommend minimum output 300 lumens, especially if some of your route in the 100k is going to be on technical trail. Anything under 300, if you're running and moving quickly on technical stuff, it's quite hard to see, to be honest. So minimum 300 or above if you can. Obviously, if your race is on a flatter surface, say a road 100k, you probably won't need a head torch, or you probably won't need that power, so you can go a lot lower. But technical trails, minimum 300 lumens. Next thing to look for is the burn time of the battery, or the battery life. So I would always go for the longest battery life you can. A lot of the head torches nowadays, they'll be a lot brighter and you can adjust the output. So by bringing it down to say 300 lumens from 700 lumens, it's going to give you 7, 8, 9, 10 hours of burn time, which in a race is really handy. The last thing you want to be doing is stopping every couple of hours and having to put new batteries in. So always check the small print and check the burn time. And last but not least, when it comes to your head torch and running with your head torch, get to know your head torch. And by that I mean, have a look at it, play around with it, work out how all the buttons work. Use it on lots of long runs, you know, try and get it on your head for 3 or 4 hours. Try changing the batteries in it mid-run. So if anything goes wrong in the race, you're prepared, you're ready for it, and you'll deal with it a lot easier. Tip number 3 comes down to training. And when you're training for your first 100k, it's about time that you start working in some back-to-back long runs. So what do we mean by back-to-back long runs? So when it comes to your weekend training, say for example 10 miles on your Saturday, and then the following Sunday a really tough 20 miles, or somewhere around that distance. It's really important when you're running that sort of distance, and it's a great way of building up endurance. So why are back-to-back long runs important when you start training for your first 100k? Well, I'm sure you can imagine over 100k in distance of running, your legs are going to get pretty heavy and pretty tired at some point. So doing these back-to-back runs really prepares your body and your mind to deal with it when it comes. You can imagine you've gone out on Saturday and you've run 10, 15 miles. You wake up the next day a little bit fatigued, your legs a little bit sore, but then you've got to go out and tackle your longest run of the week. So this builds great endurance, but it also builds great mental strength. So make sure you get them back-to-backs in your training when you're training for your first 100k. Super important. Also, I feel that doing back-to-back long runs is a slightly safer way of building up your mileage over the week and over your training, rather than going out for one long run 30 miles plus, which is going to take you a lot more time to recover from, and it could lead to you picking up a few niggles along the way. Getting that mileage in back-to-back, a lot safer, and you're a lot less likely to have problems. This has nothing to do with 100k advice and tips, but I just thought I'd show you this. Can you see this big, steep sand dune? So we'll run up it for a bit. So this sand dune, we use a lot in training. We do a lot of reps up this. And this sand dune is going to become a part of maybe another lockdown Run4Adventure challenge. So you can see it's pretty steep, and the challenge is probably going to involve going up and down this sand dune several times. It's pretty soft, it's pretty challenging, so keep your eyes peeled for the next lockdown challenge video. And as you can see, it's pretty steep. I'm out of breath just going up it once. This is going to be a tough challenge. Tip number 4 is learn to listen to your body. Don't worry, I haven't gone all hippie or anything. Let me explain what I mean. Oh yeah, that's a pretty epic view, isn't it? When I say listen to your body, what I mean is you have to listen and look out for them signs as you go through your race. You know, how are my feet? How are my energy levels? Am I hydrated? All super important things to listen out for. The secret is to listen, but then to react to the situation. So if you can feel a hot spot forming and a blister, stop, deal with it. Don't let it turn into an awful blister that's going to ruin your race. If you're feeling lightheaded or your hands are tingling, get some calories in quickly. Are you taking in enough fluid? Is your throat feeling dry? Do you feel you need to drink lots? Deal with it at that time. Stop, take on lots of fluid. You really need to react to these situations and not ignore them. When you're running distances of 100k or above, if you don't deal with them issues, you're more than likely not going to make it. So you really have to start to focus and listen to your body when things get super tough. And they will in 100k, that's for sure. The last thing you want to do is stick your head in the sand and hope for the best. Sometimes you can get away with that approach on shorter distances and crawl to that finish line. But you can imagine in 100k, if you start to really suffer at 30 miles and you don't deal with it, then you're asking for problems. Our bodies are an amazing tool, that's for sure. And they'll give you plenty of warning signs, but it comes down to us to listen and to react. Tip number 5 is don't overpack your race vest. Obviously, I'm not telling you to leave all your kit at home. You have to carry your mandatory kit. But when it comes down to everything else, try and keep it to a bare minimum. I actually made this mistake for years. You know, I'd be at home packing my bag and I'd say, oh, I'll just take that spare pair of gloves. Oh, I'll just take them extra plasters and a bit more for my first aid kit. And I still see it when I'm racing now. You'll turn up at a 50-mile race and there'll be guys there with packs. It looks like they've packed for 7 weeks. I don't know about 50 miles. Just remember, you've got to carry all that weight around through the duration of your 100k. Most 100k races will have lots of checkpoints. So lots of places where you can access water or food, or maybe even a drop bag that you packed and placed at a checkpoint. So try not to fall into that trap of carrying everything from the start of the race. Obviously, you will have all followed our advice from our running your first 50k video about checking out the route, finding out how many checkpoints there are, so you'll have all that information handy. But if you're doing a race where there's not many checkpoints along the way, you might want to consider carrying a bit more water and a bit more food just to keep you going. But if you've got lots of places along the route to fill up with water, just try not to carry too much water at once. So our last pearl of wisdom for this video is assessing your energy levels throughout that 100k. And I can't really take credit for this. This was told to me by a professional runner, and he basically said, Lloyd, make sure you put the same effort up the first hill that you're gonna put up the last. I do apologise for that French accent, it was terrible. But what he meant by that was, if your route, your 100k route is gonna be a hilly route, and you feel that you can sprint up that last hill of your route and be super strong, then by all means sprint up that first hill of your route. But if you feel that you're going to be on your hands and knees at the end crawling up the last hill, then maybe walk up that first hill. There is definitely no shame in a bit of walking in 100k. You've got to remember, this isn't a sprint, it's an ultra marathon. I know a lot of runners find it really hard to walk up that first hill, even if it's in a 100k race. And I know that because I've felt that too. I felt it myself. And I've quite often pushed too hard early on in a race. You feel that it makes you a lesser runner. You know, early on in a race, you should be running up them hills. And all these guys are going past you running where you're walking. What it actually makes you is the intelligent runner. You know, you're the one conserving energy. They're the ones wasting it. So you're the one that's going to be strong at the finish. And they're the ones that are going to be struggling. And I've seen lots of people do this. You start the race, you hit that first hill, and you start walking and there's people tearing off past you, sprinting up this hill, wasting lots of energy. And then you get to halfway and you see these people hunched over in a mess, or sitting down, or pulled out of the race. So the safest option is to assess them levels of energy all the way through your 100k. Don't waste energy, be efficient, walk the hills, and make sure you get to that finish line feeling super strong. So that's all our tips and advice for running your first 100k. It's been a beautiful run, amazing weather, but let's get back to the house. Oh, that's better after a shower. It was pretty warm out there today and I definitely worked up a sweat. It's amazing how far you can run while trying to film a video, that's for sure. But I really hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you found our tips and advice really useful. We've got one more episode in the series to come and it is the big one. So we're going to be filming Run4Adventures, tips and advice for running and training for your first 100 miler. I know it's a bit of a strange time to bring you a series of videos like this when obviously a lot of races are being cancelled or they're being postponed. But I hope these videos give you something to focus on and I hope they give you a bit of motivation. So when we're back racing, you're going to get out there and you're going to smash those distances. The channel is growing, guys, and we are rapidly approaching 5,000 subs, which is amazing. It's a figure that we had always targeted when we started the channel, but we didn't know whether we were going to hit it, and we're not far away from doing so now. So if you subscribe to the channel, thank you very much for supporting us. It really does mean the world to us. And to show our appreciation, when we hit that figure, we are going to do a video and we're going to offer a massive prize giveaway. So if you haven't subbed to the channel yet, hit that subscription button, join the Run4Adventure family, and we're going to hit that target even sooner. And then one lucky viewer is going to walk away with a bundle of goodies. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget, if you really enjoyed the video or if you found any of the tips and advice helpful, please give us a massive thumbs up. It really helps the channel out. And get involved, guys. Get in the comments below. Are there any questions that you want to ask us about running your first 100k that we haven't covered? Or are you a really experienced ultra runner and you've run 100k lots of times and there's some really good bits of advice that you could leave our viewers? Get them in the comments below. Don't forget to follow us on our other social media platforms, whether it be Instagram, Facebook or Strava. And at these difficult times, guys, I really hope you're managing to stay safe and well. But as always, at Run4Adventure, stay safe and keep on running.